Hey fellow foodies, it's Faye from faysfood.com. Today I'm going to show you how I do steak. My way, quick and easy, and very good. So I'm going to be using chuck steak. Chuck steak is really reasonably priced, but it has a decent amount of fat and marbling, which is what you're looking for in a steak. If you want to use a more expensive cut, feel free to do so. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and prep our steaks. I'm going to prep it the way I always do. I'm a firm believer that beef should taste like beef. Don't overdo it with the seasonings. So I typically just use things that can bring out the flavor of the beef. So this is how I prep it. I rub both sides with some olive oil, some pads of butter, and salt and pepper. And if you think that the salt will draw out the moisture, don't worry, it's just going to season the inside. I found that the steak is actually juicier when you salt it beforehand as well, so don't worry about it being dried out by that. We're going to cover this and place it in the fridge for about an hour. And after an hour, you want to go ahead and take out the pan, and you want to let the steak come up to room temperature for about 30 minutes. Okay. Now when your steak is ready to go, you can go ahead and prep your flat top. I'm using a flat top griddle. You can also use a cast iron skillet or a like a griddle pan. Either one will work. And you want to go ahead and drizzle on some olive oil and make sure it gets really hot, like a medium high to a high heat. And now we can go ahead and place the pads of butter that we used to prep the steaks, and we can just place them on top of our flat top. And don't worry, the heat will cook off any raw steak bits, so don't worry about that. Okay, so we're just gonna place it on the melted butter oil mixture, and we're gonna let it cook for about 2-3 minutes, roughly 3-4 minutes, somewhere in that range, on the first side. I typically like 3 or 4 minutes on the first side. My steaks are cut usually 1/2 inch thick. Obviously, if it's thicker, it's going to take longer to cook on each side. So you can go ahead and flip it over after a few minutes. And typically I cook this other side for 2 or 3 minutes. Again, it depends on the thickness and the cut of the beef. But really, I'm a firm believer that a steak should be medium rare. I cannot be swayed otherwise. So that's what I'm going for here. There's many ways to tell when a steak is done to how you'd like it. There's temperature, of course. There's time. There's feel. You can poke it with your finger or the tongs. You know, there's color. You can just kind of look at it after you do it so many times and see if it's done. So really just find out what works best for you. But typically my steaks are cut 1/2 inch thick, that are chuck steaks. They do take about 5 or 6 minutes total. So you can see the edges are really nice and crusty and colored well. That's what we're looking for. And we're gonna just cook it until it reaches slightly below medium rare. You want to really take it off before then, because we are going to let our steaks rest, and as it rests it will continue to cook. So I took it off about after about 5 or 6 minutes. You can see I do season it as well after I take it off the heat. So I immediately season it with some more salt and pepper on both sides. I'm going to cover this with some aluminum foil, and then I'm going to let it rest for about 5 or 10 minutes. And you can see after you let it rest how the juices, they collect in the pan, and then you can go ahead and drizzle that on top of your steak as well, which is so good. Okay, after the steak rests, you can go ahead and cut it up. Now you want to make sure when you cut it up, of course after it rested, I can't emphasize that enough, because the juices will not be retained if you do not rest it for about 5 or 10 minutes. Now after it rests, you want to cut it up against the grain. That's another key piece. So what the grain is the lines that run through the steak. You want to cut against those lines, not with those lines. This method always gets me a nice medium rare steak, very tasty. It tastes like beef. We don't overdo it with the seasonings. It's just a nice, simple, delicious, juicy steak. It's what a steak should be, in my opinion. For the full recipe, go to faysfood.com, like this video, comment below for any comments or questions, share this video as well, and make sure you hit that notification bell to stay updated with my video uploads. They will be coming more consistently as this semester wraps up. But definitely do try this recipe. It's very easy, an easy way to get delicious steak, which is what we all want in our lives. So some steak and fries, and I'm a happy girl. Go ahead and give this a try. You will not regret it. And until next time, guys, you have a wonderful day.
I'm just trying to make this money. I ain't trying to share with the team. Girl, I ain't trying to take nothing from you.